right. Today's a weird day. It's just a weird day today. It's a weird day. And, yeah, but a good day. Like, we've got some good things happening, and hey, yeah, very exciting stuff on the go. I have just been doing all the paperwork for One Page Extravaganza Volume 3. Volume 2. And I keep thinking Volume 3 because we just did Alphabet book. So, but getting all that paperwork done is good feelings. Oh, there's a good song. Velvet Underground. Anyways, I've had a really goofy song stuck in my head all day long of I can't even remember who it is. I think it's probably one of the old Eagles, but you know, you belong to the city. It's been stuck in my head all day, and I don't know why. So today's page was a lot of fun. This is the page that I was drawing on the Stonehenge rag paper. That's what's on the screen right now. And I think it came together really, 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 really easily. Hi, Linda and Tim. Welcome aboard. Like it's just sort of just stitched itself together. And, you know, even with that little bit of extra added in silly sauce. That's what I call it. It's my silly sauce. So that's always nice. That's always a nice thing to come together when we've got a page started and you're sort of just trying something out that you haven't been doing a lot of lately. In this case, I haven't just been doing straight graphite for the last little bit, and yeah, so good feelings all around. So we've got we just put out Alphabet book. I have been forgetting about, you know, promoting really Alphabet book a whole bunch, in the same way as One Page Volume 1 was promoted. But yeah, I think we'll do the same thing. Anybody that picks up copies of Alphabet book will send something in the mail, and people are able to put up like a review that's absolutely beautiful. But I haven't overly thought too much about all of that stuff. I'm in a mode right now, and a good friend who's been on the stream, Tristan, is really helping out with that. We'll be implementing a whole bunch of stuff soon. But I've really been in that productivity stream and trying to deal with challenges that have been coming up in life and health, and you know, so I find one of the ways to work through those things is to get busy, and that's what's been happening. So it's all good feelings. But yeah, we'll start addressing some of that a little more in the immediate future. Yesterday, before I forget, today's postcard is 24. It's a song by a band called Kasabian, 24/7. I like this band a lot. They have, they're a Manchester band. Started, I think, in the 90s. They've got a lot of that really cool, driving music sort of a vibe. And it's just a fun song, So I wanted to play with a couple different little ideas and motifs here on this page. I've got a really fun one set up for tomorrow, real cool card for number 25. For those that haven't clued in on it yet, it's songs. I've been doing songs every day, a different song every day that incorporates these numbers into the music, and it's busy. Oh, thank you. Linda put up the link for the new book. Appreciate that very much, Linda. Yeah, Alphabet book. It's the same size as the other ones, hardcover as well. It's the same page count. It's got a different color for the binding. I think I've shown the picture for it on here. If I haven't, let's do it now. There we are. And there we are. Yay, look at that. So yeah, so there's the new book cover, alphabet book. And it's good. It's good. I can't get over. We've been receiving money from Amazon now about the sales of books. I can't get over how many of these things are coming in. Like, it's just wow. I'm really appreciative of it. So it's yeah. This is why it's also sort of inspired me to give that back. And come on, let's get more stuff out for people here. And yeah. I appreciate everybody's support. It's absolutely beautiful. Love you. Hi, Susanna. Welcome aboard. I got something fun to show you. So there's the new book cover. There's today's postcard. There's today's one-page story, which is typically silly, typically Christopher silliness. Guy finds a little mini green man in the ocean, or the sea, brings him on board. The little man teaches them some coordinated dance moves that they put on for all the other sailors, and they call up a big undersea monster. These things happen. They happen to the best of us. I'm just ridiculous. Something else that I've got to show you. This is kind of fun. Lori got some soap recently. It's a random way to start this. Lori got some soap recently, and it came in this crazy modular wooden box that is assembled pieces that you put these together and builds this nice little box. And inside came these 3 pieces of soap. But there's this slide lid that goes in there with this really wickedly cool pattern stencil. It's very thick though. It's a good thick piece of wood. But still, look at that neat little piece of information there. And then I got a box to put some stuff in. So I'll be using that. I played with this yesterday. This is, I bought some of these stamps. I got them for $1 each at a office supply store in a nearby smaller city, St. Thomas. I got them for $1 each Canadian. That's like a nickel American. So I'm excited to do something with these. Now, I was thinking this. So I played with this stamping, and drawing a face. But then I thought to myself, without this sort of hacking at the surface with the stamp, how do I get half coverage from areas? And so I came up with this principle of using this piece of paper, so that if I stamp along here, then the ink will pick up on the cardstock and it won't go on the drawing itself. So that lets me have a little more control on the marks that are being put down, specifically using the stamp. And it starts to become a different kind of language. I'm sorry that's so noisy, but hey, Chris, welcome aboard. So I thought that I'm going to explore this a lot more because I really like this idea of getting different levels of value out of this. The whole idea of using stamps to do a drawing, and the ink that you see, the pen marks that you see there, I added those after. And then I had the realization also that I could take some white and come back in over top and cut white in there to, accentuate certain spots. It's just a lot of fun. The other thing that I was thinking about was taking an alcohol, like the blending tool that you get with like Copic markers or there are other alcohol-based markers. And I thought that part of me wanted to experiment with this guy is the blending, because this is so soluble that this is another idea of how it can blend together. And it just there's possibilities here, and that we might not necessarily consider off the hop, because you look at it and you go, it's a stamp of the word approved, as opposed to what it could do for us as a mark making tool. So I got all kinds of ideas, folks, and we'll see where I can take that and explore that. But look at what it does to the paper afterwards, eh? Holy camoly. So yeah, so a couple things I want to try out, exploring with this and seeing about composition. See, the principal problem I would suggest for drawing images in this way is scale, because this is an 11 by 17 paper that I have on here. There's the top and there's the bottom. It's not a ton of room available, so it's really you either got to kind of pre-plan what you're going to put down for your image, or really get a handle on using this masking technique with this piece of paper in this regard, and in order to do complex little shapes and areas. But again, it's all about exploration. And then I'm not entirely sure about how much ink is in these suckers. Linda says it can turn into a great tool. I think it can. I think it has some real possibility. I think a lot of it has to do with how we go about trying it, so if it sticks in, if it gets stuck up in there, I just push it in a little more and it pops back out. So yeah, there's a lot to be explored and a lot to be tried out. I find it very noisy though, so that's why I don't think it's probably. Oh, there's an idea. Linda says on a smaller scale, it could be train cars. Let's play with this idea, Linda. Okay. So let me think about this. I've got the approved there. Now, if I do this for the wheels, my camera, I'm so sorry. Here's what I'm doing. I'm putting this piece of paper here, and we'll put the wheels underneath. And then let's take the alcohol-based marker, and I bet if I try to, stop making noise up there, we're trying to sleep. Hi Jim, welcome aboard. So if I'm trying to pick up, there we go. Oh yeah, look at this. I can use the excess ink that's on the card as a source. So, well, my train cars are a little spaced out, so let's do 2 separate trains. Why? Because we can. And then this'll be a little more complete train. So I'm taking the ink up off of the first piece of cardstock that I used as a mask, and so we're putting down these. So I don't think I'll be really able to use this for much else now that I've used it in this way, because that blue is permeated in there pretty strongly. Okay, so I was going to use a blue pen. I might as well just use this, so maybe it helps to differentiate it a little bit more. Let me zoom in. We're just experimenting with this, and I thought maybe one of the fun things that we could do would be to experiment it different ways as we come up with ideas. So we'll put our hitch right there. Let's do a second train back here. And put that across. And so we're using the one word original as the wheels for the train, and we're using approved as the body of the cars. So here's our train 1, here's our train 2. It's kind of more like a symbolic train that's being built here, more so than a little more easier to see. Yeah, that's kind of fun. I think that's a lot of fun. We can use the same card and draw some tracks for these guys using this flat edge. When I say it feels like it may be honestly a little more symbolic in its representation, it's because it's not, there's a sort of abstractness to it. But that's kind of the thing that I love about children's art, is that everything has a symbolic context to it, because they're not overly concerned about the spit and polish of it, right? They're not overly concerned about it. They're just trying to get some measure of representation on their drawings, more so than they're concerned about how fancy it looks and how, you know, lovely and finished it is. That's not their principal interest. So yeah, I think that there's some fun possibilities here. I got one more sort of color. Yeah, you'll do. So there's our train, and then we'll just do interesting. What I did with the paint marker, or the alcohol-based blending tool for the markers, is working kind of like a resist here. That or green paint is kaput. So there we go. I'll pull back. Here's our idea. What's going on? Did it freeze? No, it's back. Okay. Stupid robot. Okay. So there's our little train idea. Now there's a great deal of things that we can do to experiment with this farther. Like, you could probably just come back in and clearly separate it from its background with the white or something like that. Just make it jump up. I'll show you. So I've been wanting to show you a couple fun things. Bill Sienkiewicz is an artist that I really love. Now, is Bill over here or is Bill over there? There we go. I found him. Okay, so one of the things that Bill did was Moby Dick. He adapted Moby Dick for sorry, I'll stop talking with my back to the camera in just a second. Okay, so here's some of Sienkiewicz's work, and I'm a big fan of, again, like I said, symbolic mark making, right? So one of the earlier things that he did is he did a series called The Demon Bear Saga over a course of a bunch of issues of a comic called The New Mutants in the 1980s. And so I have a full-size artist edition of Bill Sienkiewicz's work at the original size of the art, and they're huge. But you can see that he has really simplistic line form for the earrings and, for the feather and the hashtag mark making. But then he's done some really fun and complex things, like here she is under a quilted bedspread having a nightmare, but amongst that quilted bedspread is the haunting face of a bear peeking through in that grid pattern. So here's an explosion of the White House. It's just the way he does his art is that his intention is to get the key impact and the key point of the panel. There's Professor X not having a great day. So this is a fantastic way that he draws. Like, look at So the bear is a spirit animal that represents this sort of monstrous devouring soul of her Aboriginal people. And so she has to face it. She has to to put this thing in its place. That's her bloodline's destiny. So, but you can see the way that he draws his characters, they all have this sort of really clear sort of stylistic representative. Like this guy blasts like a cannonball. This guy is called Sunspot, and so he looks like it's black spots on a solar charged thing. She's magma. She looks like volcano. But then he does really fun things like this. So here's all of these shadowed figures, which you don't know whether or not they're menacing, all sneaking up on this house, and it's very, very creepy and spooky. And my feet hurt. Are we there yet? And then knock, 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 and the door creaks open and says, "You're late!" And it's a big sleepover party for all the kids at the school and their friends from town. Just good silly fun, but really simplistic line making for things like the balloons and the decorations up above, but it sells the image. So he's done a lot of work sequentially. Like here's some of his Daredevil work, and it's all like, look at this fantastically interesting stuff of him hiding behind this stuff in an antique shop, and rather than trying to draw these really fancy stacks of items and things like that, no, he's just got random smatterings. That's a chair, that's a grate, that's a table, that's a box on top. He's not overly concerned about everything having this very specific dimensionality in space, or the sound of rumble as the guy takes off on the bike, and then he realizes, okay, he's gone. I got away from him. He missed me. He took off in the other direction. Really fun and cool stuff, but he uses repetitive elements. So here he is. This is his version of the Kingpin, and if you watch these animated Spider-Man movies, they base their version of the bad guy in those on Bill Sienkiewicz art. So he's this large, corpulent mass of form that's really hyper extended. I mean, this is the Kingpin. This is the guy. And in front of him is the doctor as they stand over top of his wife's bed because she's sick. But this pattern that's on the clothing is clearly a flat, two-dimensional pattern of like a wallpaper type thing, right? And he's also got a different flower pattern wallpaper for the walls behind. And yet together they work and they separate, but there's such a wonderful and interesting way of using these symbolic pieces of language, visual language, in order to represent form and function. Like there's the wall, there's the character. I love what he does. Look at the way he represents these pipes in a basement. Like he's just populating space. And the populating of space is in order to give you a sense of the context. And so now he's done a few other things. This is Brought to Light that he did with Alan Moore. I picked this up because I love, this is all about the CIA Contra affair, and there's Oliver North, and it's a whole, this is a $30 book. I went out of my way when I bought it, because there's a whole thing going on here about trying to do reportage in a sequential way, and I'll crack this open in a second. Another thing that he did was these two books, Big Numbers. It's about strip malls first appearing in England and how they would affect small British towns, and the thinking of strip malls in British villages is almost anathema to how British villages work, and so it's talking about specifically about that. But I've shown this before, and this is one of the artists that have had a big impact on me. He's just drawn this top panel, and he's just sketched it in pencil, And then he's going out of his way in panels down below with inks, and it looks like a little bit of airbrushing down there, or some and lots of spattering work, and then going back over certain aspects and more readily and clearly defining these objects in the foreground as opposed to the object in the background. In this case, it's a person's hand and another person's face. He does things like he takes resist, or he takes strips of tape or there's like a plastic that you can lay over top of things, and then when you paint above that, then strip it away, it'll leave these voids. Or you could take this white tape and black tape and utilize it in that regard. But he does these impactful things in panels of chopping up images and chopping up the whole space of the page using these ink marks and resist marks. And there's a boldness in this person's work that he uses all kinds of fantastic symbolic language in the course of his story. And once you step into this node, once you start understanding what it is that he's referring to with the way he depicts things, like even though she's in a dream state, like in a nightmare state here, in her dream while she's riding the train. And in the course of that dream, I mean, look at the car. The car is, clearly disproportionate, or, more of a fantastic representation of a car, like a fantasy element, because it's, compressed the way it is, and it's she's in a landscape completely covered in alcoholic bottles, and it all has to do with aspects of the character in the story, but just the fantastic leaps and courage that he utilizes in his work. There's an abandon in that. Allow yourself to fall into your intuition. Allow yourself to pursue the randomness of the idea, whether it works or doesn't work. You're never going to know unless you try it. And this is a person who's a prime example of giving it a try. And then we pull out from the dream state. Now this is a photo collage that's been matted in, and then there's paint on top of that, right? There's another simple representation of wheels of a train going by, and here's this same track pattern again and again, but as these characters are walking and moving along it. So it's not just that it's cheating and using the background. I mean, it's simplifying the repetition of the background and making it concrete by using a static image. But then the things that he's doing in the foreground help to elucidate what's going on in the story. So by the characters moving and through the space and moving their body parts and things like that, to give you enough variety. Little kid at the side of the train throws a rock as the train goes by. Right there. He throws the rock, and it hits, and he picks up the rock, he throws it, and then in the dream is the shattered glass of a bottle. But in reality, let me move over. Here comes the rock towards the window as she's sleeping, and then shatters her dream back into reality. I mean, there's so much symbolism in those few pages alone, mixed with really confident visual storytelling. So I'll show you his name. See, look at that. There's a photostat of a city view. Because in order to just get right into the storytelling, why monkey around with redrawing all of this? Let's get to the storytelling part. And you can see it's not for a lack of ability for sophisticated environment drawing. It's just a case of efficiency, basically, is what I want. The efficient use of facilitating what he wants to draw with just a simple photostat visual. One more thing is, in order to showcase the rain in this scene here, he's got sketches and scribbles. Scribble, 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 scribble. Scribble, 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 scribble on these illustrations. Scribble, scribble, scribble. To diffuse the value. to make you understand that they're in the rain. It's raining, and as these people are talking to each other, little glares, things like that. Police looking out the window at this woman walking in the rain. Just really fantastic stuff. Really compelling work. I highly recommend people take a look at Bill Sienkiewicz. And so there were only 2 copies of Big Numbers. And in number 3, Bill had a protege that was to illustrate number 3 as they were going off to do Brought to Light. And there was a whole kerfuffle, the interpersonal relationships amongst the people that were, involved in Bill's studio and his wife and things like this. So Columbia has always been a rather emotional creator. I'd like to show you some of his work, but he has an awful lot of stuff that's difficult to show publicly, just because he doesn't, there's an awful lot of exposure, in his stuff and really scary images. So, but Al Columbia, being protege of Sienkiewicz, and all of this turmoil in the studio, he burned the book. He had number 3 finished, and he burned it. And all that was left was one photostatic image of a face, a person's face. And the rest of the creative team, Alan Moore, who is the writer of Watchmen, From Hell, V for Vendetta, Voice of the Fire, all kinds of fantastic works, prose and sequential literature. And Bill Sienkiewicz, they were also disheartened that was it. Book's over. We're done. We'll never do another Big Numbers. Which is a tragedy, because it was absolutely gorgeous. Here is, I've shown this once before, I think. This is Precursor. This is Bill, Bill, Sienkiewicz, Sienkiewicz. Now, this Sienkiewicz is how his father anglicized it and how it's pronounced. The original spelling of this name is Sienkiewicz, but they didn't want to, when his father emigrated to North America. I think it's his father or his grandfather perhaps, but they wanted to anglicize a little bit so they weren't seen as the other, as people do with immigrants. This is signed, which I'm very excited about. So anyways, I'm going to show you some of his work to just talk about the way that he represents. Okay, here's a couple nice watercolors, or ink. These are ink paintings, I think. Just a couple of chairs with shadows behind them from the light source, to the side. Here's a painting of a living room with photos and frames and a young man standing there. He did a series called Stray Toasters, and the stray toasters are actually to represent something more than that. They represent, I think it has a lot to do with about capitalism and the pressure on kids, and so he has these really crazy abstracted shapes and things in here. I'm trying to pre-edit as I'm showing you pages here because I don't want to show anything that, like, there's a symbolic quick sketch doodle of roadkill. If only, I think he had a hard time with a certain House of Mouse at that time. But again, here's another color study of a living room, and of inks and titled living room. Just absolutely look at the beautiful innocence of this piece. And yet, if only I could show in close enough proximity all the the textures that are going on in this surface. The camera can only pick up so much of it, but there's so much texture on the surface of that image, from spattering techniques and dragging techniques. Here's ink illustration here of Bush in '88, Ollie for VP. It's a company man. He's a bird. Anyways, here's a pirate drawing. It is sometimes his art does have very there's a something about his art that reminds me of Hogarth. So, or not Hogarth, Wyeth, I think. You know, not N.C. Wyeth, his father, who was the one that did all the adventure book illustrations in 1920s. So there's a Shakespeare, you know, very interesting the way that he puts down all these dabs in order to build up the entirety of this part of this cloak, you know. It's a skull. Just there's a backyard at Belushi's. I don't know which Belushi that is, but just again interesting details. But you can use these simple marks in these simple shapes in order to get across wonderful things. And so in this case, the symbolic dabs of color are leaves. And, you know, so I'm always trying to explore ways to approach stuff and to, you know, to try things like this, and encouraged by guys like Sienkiewicz because there's a self-assurity in that. The American Society of Illustrators has a video where Bill is teaching illustration in front of a group, and he uses rubbing alcohol in a spritzer bottle as he's doing an ink wash drawing. And so he'll put it down and he'll dab it on paper towel, and he'll get this modeling effect, and he'll diffuse colors. He'll put one color down, he'll put, you know, this resist on part of it, this with vinegar or something, and then he'll lift it off, and in the course of lifting it off you see this fantastic destabilization of color. I'll show you something basically here. Let me show you quickly something that I'm referring to. If you take, let's get some water on this here, brush-alicious. Okay, so if I take this, there we go. I got some watercolor. I'm just going to use watercolor to show you this. And I put some watercolor down in this area. Okay, and then immediately take this paper towel and run it through it. It, depending on where the pressure went, it destabilizes these, so you get these wonderful little mottled spots. And depending on how much pigment is in it, right? It's, sorry, I just threw some dirty water on here, and then I smacked it, and so now it destabilizes it again. I love effects like this. I love when we can try different things. So that we can get wonderful little textures and diffusing values in the colors that we put down. And I like to incorporate that kind of junk in my drawings and any illustration work that I do, because you can find new avenues of expression, and sometimes having the affordance to be able to make this big wash of a value on something while you're working lets you not be overly precious about trying to fill in that volume with another mark making tour that might be a little bit more belaborious. So if anybody sees something stick out here that they say, draw on that, dummy. Don't call me a dummy, I'm sensitive. But is there anything that sticks out here to folks? You want me to draw in black or red or blue or yellow or green or light blue or white? If anybody has a particular choice, and we'll start today's one-page story this way. And I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to be a little aggressive in my mark making today, and I'm going to use ink brush and dipping pen. So I guess I need a lighter surface to do this. Why don't we try... I thought I had... Oh, that's because I only grabbed half of the stack. For goodness sakes. Yeah, let's try one of these suckers. This is this cardstock that I used to use in a workplace for actual cataloging. And yeah, I find that it's interesting to draw on. So let's find a suggestion out of the book and go from there. So yeah, so I thought I'd show you some of Bill Sankowicz's books and talk about some of that mark making process and being bold. Allow yourself to be bold. Allow yourself to aura kitty, aura kitty, and that suggestion comes from Jose Cabrera. So aura kitty it is. So I'm going to turn this way. I'm going to utilize these letters into it, and I think that we'll just give her and have a go. And so I'm going to draw with this black dipping pen. You got something to you? Are you there? Yeah, it's there. And then I've also got this ink brush pen, which is going to add some fun and interesting aspects to the mark making we'll try. So Aura Kitty is it. Let's just get started. Now drawing with... My watch keeps making noise. My drawing with a fountain pen, a dipping pen, I find can be rather... If you're overly concerned about it, you're going to just set yourself up for trouble, because it can be rather unforgiving. And the ink isn't... like it's very water soluble still. So, you know, we'll take what we can get here. But we're just, I'll zoom in so it's a little easier to see. So Aura Kitty, A-U-R-A Kitty is today's suggestion from Jose Cabrera. Thank you, Jose, for your suggestion. I don't necessarily know what that means, so we're gonna have some fun with it. So today what I wanted to do was just draw using, whoops, I'm so sorry, using some shape language here. I'm less concerned about, you know, can I get it to look like a kitty? We'll see, but at the very little I want it to have a sort of, I want to take a stylish approach to it and do my best to get it to still somewhat resemble a kitty. But sometimes you just have to go for it. Just worry less about, is it perfect? Is it right? I say sometimes, I actually mean all the time, but you're not going to get anywhere if you don't just start drawing. So we'll do a little Aura Kitty this way. Now, immediately as I start drawing, like I usually say, the story ideas start coming in then. I had no idea what a story to do with an Aura Kitty could be, but once you start making those marks, oh well, then ideas come to mind. So this is the top part of the cat's, or kitty's, head, and I don't know if this is necessarily the best kitty drawing ever, but if it's serviceable, it does it for us. My key interest is usually the storytelling part before it is the perfect visual aspect to it. I really just want to get down to getting to the story, getting to the meat and potatoes. This is why I think I like illustrators like Sienkiewicz and McKeon, and McKeon illustrated a book called Slow Chocolate Autopsy by Ian Sinclair. I find Ian Sinclair's writing to be difficult, but when it's illustrated by McKeon, it just somehow becomes makes a little more sense to me. Just because he has such interesting approaches as far as he goes for graphic storytelling. So here's our little maniac. I don't know. I think it looks like a cat. So my idea with this is that's coming together. It's an aura kitty. So, there's got to be some kind of ethereal motif going on in here. So I'm going to try some things. But I want to try a very different approach than I did yesterday's page. Very different kind of layout to it, so bear with me for a moment. Oops. Okay, so I've got this dry brush. Just put in some kind of interesting texture over here. Just to flatten out the space around him. I don't know if it's a him or her. I haven't asked this cat. Watched a TV show where somebody's getting arrested, and the one officer somebody tried to have their case thrown out because they didn't ask the other person's pronouns as they were being arrested. So the rest of this episode is this officer is interviewing X amount of people that have been up to no good. First thing they do every time is so-and-so, or is those pronouns. They just went the complete opposite direction and really overemphasized asking about all these people this. And meanwhile, these people were very different mindset than the first person, so I kept looking at them like, what? We're all different. Okay, so here's our aura kitty in our first panel. Cats, when they're little kittens, they're just so great. They're just bottled cuteness. Baby kittens and babies, just the most dangerous things on the planet. You're like, I can't be mad at you. Look at you. Now get your arm out of my fishbowl. You silly baby. Go sit beside that cat. Or however that works. So I'm keeping this pre-stamped number as part of the image. I'm just cutting in and around it, and yeah, we'll just leave this to be a part of it. Try to fit it somehow into our narrative, work with the space that we have, you know. Why? Boy, am I glad she asked. Just 'cause it's there. Alright, so here's our first panel of Aura Kitty. And I don't know. Anybody got any ideas? Where do we go with this next? Yeah, okay. I don't know. So I'll just draw. So that looks good. Hey! Thank you. Alright, so I'm just gonna look for another image of this cat, and I'll just montage one thing over the next. Because to me that's fun. I like montaging in when I'm drawing. Sorry, I'm out of frame. I apologize. I tend to draw with my fountain pens upside down. This is an 03, but because I draw with the nib of it upside down, from what is it, there's the right side up, I draw like this. And somebody asked me once, hey, where'd you get that cool kind of fountain pen? I'm like, it's a regular fountain pen, just upside down. Just because it gives, I find it gives a tighter control on the flow, and it gives you a tighter line as well, and I like that. So I'm coming back in with these little marks. And we'll have this little kitten looking up, same little guy. Am I missing? Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I don't know how exciting it is to watch me draw cats. If there's ever anything, like as far as it goes for books that I might have, or questions relating to those that people might have, always feel free to ask and let me know, and I'll see what I can find. If there's a specific approach or question, or a certain kind of artist that you might want to see. So I might have a book of them. Susanna says, I love the fountain pen. I really do too. It's a fun, I would prefer having a fountain pen in my pocket for note-taking than anything else. But you go through ink like it's nobody's business. At least I know I do. I don't. I have a problem though. It's called put the pen down-itis. I need to do that more often because I'm drawing all the time. There was a sitcom and somebody walked in and said, hey, where's Christopher? And all the other characters around the gathering place would all go, drawing, like that. That's I draw pretty much. I've got something to draw with all around me all the time. So here's another shot of our cat. big vehicle driving by my house right now. Yeah, so we've got a couple of our cat images in here. I'll pull the zoom back. So there's our first two panels coming together now. I got the wrong tool for this. There we go. What am I missing? Okay. Alright, so yeah, now I've got already this pencil mark that runs across the top here. So I'm just going to utilize that. That's, in my mind, a ready-made answer for a decorative motif. Like, well, I've already got that line thing in. Rather than erase it or think too much about it, I'll just leave it there and incorporate it into the overall image. I had your new book to my shopping cart on Amazon now. Oh, that's very nice of you, Susanna. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Again, I appreciate the reviews people are giving. Those are really super fun. Appreciate that very much. I don't know how it works in the magic of the interwebs, but it's always appreciated. I don't know if it makes of any interest to the robots reviews, but I know that it's very much appreciated. Chris says, I'm back. Some issues here. Oh, Susanna's curious. Dun 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 dun. Okay, so Aura Kitty. So here's our first two images of Aura Kitty. And I'm debating on, do I continue this image along down below, or do I incorporate something else across here? Because I want to move our composition across the top and then across the bottom. So sometimes when you draw that character that's moving across two layers in your image, it might not necessarily work. All right, well, let's try. Oh no. So I'm pulling up a whole bunch of thumbnails, and immediately comes up all these cartoon kitty cats, and there's this part of me that's terrified that this is going to be in my search. Like, it's going to sort of say, he likes little kitty cat cartoons. It's like, I don't know what it's called, kitty cat something. I hope your whatever the challenges were for your internet there, or whatever it was, Chris, or the issues are okay. Alright, so let's try this. So I'm going to do a tail across the bottom, moving up into, I'm going to cut this in here now. So this is trying to play with some of that symbolic shape language. Like, ideally the person viewing it realizes that this will be a tail, and I'm going to draw the kitten's little paw here, and their leg kicking out like a sewer. So Aura Kitty in my head makes me think about kind of like either one of two things, either an astral kitty like a ghost kitty, or some kind of Lothario. Hey, I noticed that your aura is very purple tonight. Ugh. And my mind is running through this fantastic debate of which of those two versions do I decide upon. Hey, how you doing? Can I buy you a drink? Yeah, no. So right off the hop, I'm drawing. Oh, okay, good. Right off the hop here, I'm drawing some different little iterations of this cats overlapping one another, and so this one I'm going to have the kitten playing. Along the bottom, as though they're on the floor. So there's the second paw, and then there's the second hind paw there, and we've got arms coming through here. So the only thing that's like a clear shape is the eyes and the nose, really. Everything else is kind of how did that go? I did a little triangular one. Yeah. Everything else is very scratchy and scattered. So here's the rest of our little kitten's head. Talking to a good friend of mine, we were reminiscing about some silliness of when we were young, and we were talking about something that I told him lives in my head rent-free, and that is he tried to introduce a number of people to a band called They Might Be Giants when we were, teenagers, in the early days of this band, and the song that he used is probably one of their weirdest songs. And this is the one that he's like, you guys should listen to it. They got this song. It's like, put your hand in the puppet's head. It's such a weird song. Meanwhile, they got all kinds of fantastic tunes. I mean, that's a good song too, but it's stuck in my head all these years later. I just think stuff like that is really funny. Okay, so now that I got this kitten laid in here, down along the bottom, I'm going to bring these cat drawings further down and tie these images in together into this montage format. So with the text is how we're going to lead the viewer around the page. And so what that means is where we lay the words is going to have to be the factor that carries the eye around from the left top corner to the bottom right, and that can be very challenging. So when we're doing the placement of all of these little cat images, we kind of want to factor where am I leaving spaces for text and for the the interplay of the text and the visual image. So I've got a space here, space, all kinds of space in here. I've got all kinds of space up here, but I have to think about if I'm putting images or panel text here, I've got to carry the eye around the top part and the bottom part as well. So you have to think objectively about where am I going to put everything in order to make some sort of continuity amongst the way the eye flows with the visual image and a continuity with the way your flow with the textual image. So it's just something to think about. Alright. So I'm coming in and putting some emphasis points in with this brush now. And I'm going to do the same thing with this kitten here in order to separate this from this from this with these little embossed lines around the exterior, the outside edge. There we go. So whatever I'm going to draw these different iterations of the cat for the remaining part of the image, I'm going to utilize this approach of doing this outlining of the outside edge of each of the cats, and in that way it sort of establishes a separation between from one cat to the next one, and just keeps it interesting and moving for the reader. Fun stuff like that. I don't know about when other people are planning their drawings or looking at the overall approach of the composition on its own merit, but at the same time, when you're doing something sequential that incorporates words and pictures, you have to think about the composition with the text, and then how those two work together, right? So this is always the challenge with doing sequential works, is that you want to make sure that there's some kind of consistent balance. So I think I got enough time here to do one more cat, and I'll finish this off a little later on tonight, because we're going to go and pick up our car. Very exciting. So I'm just putting in a few more fun little details, trying to pick up on some of these motifs. It's not a really dark colored cat that I've chosen to do, but there are areas with the fur that clearly have these. I'm trying to keep the pattern of value underneath the neck, top of the heads, right? Things like that. Keep that consistency moving across. Sometimes when you're drawing with something like a fountain pen, it's natural for people to feel a little degree of concern about, well, what if I put a mark down wrong? And again, the question is for you to ask yourself is it that you want your drawing to be perfect? Because maybe you should lay it out in pencil first, if you're really concerned about your ability to put down those lines as you expected, as you wanted, in a very organized way. I don't like making mistakes. Well, then plot out your drawings, and in that way it'll give you that comfort of taking the concern about the errors out of the equation, so that you can just more readily and more comfortably just start drawing and just lean into that. I should have put in today's thing, I'm drawing kitties today. People like them kitties. I don't know if you can tell what this cat is doing here, but I'm trying to get him to play in the environment. So, like this hand, this is some of the symbolic mark making. It's just loose line making. I'm not worried about definitively laying out every single little paw, aspect of the paw. I want you to get the gist of, hey, that's the cat's paw, and then we get to move on, right? So here is him reaching up, put, just trying to think, how am I going to do this? So by the end of this drawing, I will have used half a cartridge of ink, I think. I think. That was fun. I think so. Just because it only holds so much ink in the cartridge for fountain pens, and after a while you get a feel for how much ink is actually contained in one, so that you can gauge for yourself, some sort of guideline about how much ink you can put into a drawing, or whatever your project is, based on your readiness to have enough ink to commit to the size or to the intensity of the work that you're trying to do. Dipping ink, well, you have so much more leeway with a dip, ink reservoir that you can dip ink into, or ink pens into and pull ink out of. So here's the little claws sticking out on this guy. I'm thinking about, Baby plays far more interestingly than Corbin, because Baby's a hunter and Corbin is a big old softy. He tries to make friends with a fly, well, but his Baby's just full on attack. She's a great mouser, but she's not very nice to other critters. So I'll continue this line across the top. That there's a pre-penciled line that runs across the top here for whatever reason, and we're just going to incorporate that into our composition. There we go. And then I'll put this line underneath it like I did on the other side, just to keep that running across, and then we'll put this little platformed area underneath this stinker's head there as he's playing with his toys. And then there's a repetition of that pattern. That's always fun. And we can come back in here and we'll use some of this crazy brush pen here. I'm going to turn this for a second here. Maybe not. I'll just do it this way. I thought I'd turn the card in order to lay that black down, but now I could continue this motif across. I think I might. And then I'm going to try something fun in the sun in a second here. What I can do is carry this across all the way behind the other kitten. Okay. So there's the top line across our image here. This crazy kid. And then we'll do this border line, this outline here, like we've done with the other cats, to separate him from the base there. There we go. Where we at? Okay, so there's, I don't know, 65% of our total drawing. So all that's left to do is one more cat, and then that's it, you know. So I'm going to try something slightly different here, I think, and that is I'm going to try to draw the cat in a very different way. I'm going to try to reverse it. We'll see how this goes. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Chris, what do you mean? Like, you're going to put your ink down, flip it, and reverse it? Oh, what? Hip hop. So this is me making the Aura Kitty an Aura Kitty. So all the areas that I've left lines out of before are these areas that I'm putting lines into now, and vice versa. So there's the eyes. And what do we got? We got a little space inside that cute nose. It's really tricky. You know, I'm trying not to overthink it all. And then I think what I'll do is I'll put spatter over top of it with some white ink in order to sort of suggest stars in our Aura Kitty. I think it's come together. Maybe? I don't know. I'm not very talkative today, am I? Alright, so we've got our Aura Kitty coming together now, taking some shape. Looking all weird. Sometimes you get inspired to try something like a left turn instead of a right. Allow yourself that. Go for it. What do I do under the chin? Give him some room. I think it'll make more sense when the stars are in there. So right now it just kind of looks a little bit creepy and weird. So we'll get the ears in here. And then we'll get the top of the forehead in. That's why I'm talking about I use so much ink in a drawing when I'm drawing with the fountain pen, is that I just want to fill everything in. You know. So what do we got? We got more here. And then we'll put there was an artist in London named Jack Chambers, big fan of him, and he used to draw things in silver, and so if you turn this way it'll look like it's black line, if you turn that way it'll look like a positive, it'll look like a negative, and love that. It's clearly had some kind of impact on sometimes how I think about images sometimes. Trying to find the outside of the little kitten's face has been tricky. Okay, so again, trying to leave spaces in between in order for text to fit, right? There we go. I'll do the same over here on this side rather than using the heavy black brush, although I might use the heavy black brush along this outside edge just to keep it interesting, just to give it a sense of balance. And I'll put here, I'll draw the cat's paw in this way. Oh, he's a cutie. So this way the little kitten there is reaching up like, oh, look at me, aren't I just the cutest thing? And then we'll carry forward this motif again across the bottom there, and we'll continue some of these lines. So there you go, there's the basic gist of it, folks. And I'll fill in this area here with the black, and I'll fill in this last little bit of fur on this character. And there's today's page. So I'll put the text to it and the story to it afterwards, but the suggestion for today was Aura Kitty. That came from oh, Mama Juju says, oh my gosh, I was able to catch you live work. It's been crazy. How y'all been? Hey, Mama Juju, welcome aboard. It's we're doing all right. So this is today's page. I'm gonna go in, I think after I finish the little bit of inks, I'm gonna fill in, I think what I'll do is I'll fill in this area with the stripes to continue on that motif, and then I'll fill this in with the black brushwork, the dry brush. But first I'll make sure I put in all of the reverse chest hair on the Astral Kitty. And so the idea is, when I'm done that, I'm going to take, when I'm done all the inking and I give it a little while to settle, I'm going to take a white ink like this and I'll mask off the majority of the page. And then what I'll do is that I'll spatter some white ink, or maybe I'll just use yellow ink and spatter it around here in order to sort of give it a, like stars are incorporated in the kitty cat's fur. Make it a Astral Kitty and Aura Kitty. And I will do my best to resist myself from being silly. Yeah, I'll just finish it off now. We're almost done. Okay, so, whoops, last bit. What time are we at? 1:26. We did it, folks. When I'm just sketching and doodling with ink, I work really fast, I find. I don't overthink things too much. You don't have a lot of playing around because you're drawing in ink, and ink is there once it's down. So there's no point in overthinking it. Okay, so let's get this fur down here, and then we'll put this black volume in here. And I'm wondering if, for consistency's sake, I should just do that here. Yeah, might as well. You can go through it in here. Okay, there's today's page. So, Aura Kitty, suggested by Jose Cabrera. And I'll have this, I'll scan it, put the text on it once it dries, put the stars on the last kitten, and then I'll scan it and put the text on it and have it posted for first thing in the morning. Okay, folks, that's about it for me today. We gotta go pick up our car. Thank you, everybody, for coming and hanging out. I hope you have a good day. I'll be back tomorrow, and we will get crack-a-lackin' on tomorrow's page. If you have a one-page suggestion that you'd like to throw at me, even if it's a couple of words or a sentence of dialogue or just an idea, please feel free to put it in the chat or in the comments on the video or on any of the social media posts that I do, and I will do my best to get it in the book and do a one-page of it. That's it for now. Thanks very much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye for now.